Good morning. I'm Emily Young with NC Tech. I am the Senior Manager of Member Engagement here, and thank you for joining us for today's virtual workshop sponsored by Optimizely. They'll go ahead and let you know how they'd like to handle questions or anything like that during the workshop. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Michael Thompson with Optimizely to get things started.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Thompson with Optimizely. I'm looking forward to obviously speaking with you today and sharing some insights and also being able to answer your questions. Focus today is going to be a little bit about digital transformation, how it's a journey and not a destination, some of the challenges that a lot of companies I've seen have over the years of working with them. Feel free to post any questions either in chat or in the Q&A section. I will be watching them, and I'm going to have Jared just keep me right and make sure that I don't miss anything that might come up. I will try to answer questions as we go along because they may be significant to that or relevant to that spot where we are in the discussion. But thank you, everyone, for taking the time to out of your day to be with us. So if I can actually get my screen to move. So just a little bit about myself. I'm an enterprise account executive with Optimizely. I have over a decade of experience working with content management systems, not only providing the solutions, but also actually implementing the solutions and working with agencies. So just a little bit about myself. I'm here actually just south of Raleigh in Holly Springs. Lived here for about 3.5 years and came from New Hampshire and currently loving the South. Have 2 kids, my wife, let's see here, 4 cats, 1 dog, and a bunch of fish. And if anybody's in the Raleigh area and likes to play pickleball or golf, hit me up. So just, I'm going to start off and actually just tell you a little bit about Optimizely before I go into some of this information I'm providing. But just to understand who Optimizely is, we're a digital experience platform that provides companies the ability to manage and collaborate on content and campaigns, creating assets that they can share across many channels. We move into the capability of actually being able to manage that content, working that content in the digital space and present that content, helping marketers to deploy the campaign and create engagement across the digital properties. From there, we help companies to iterate on that content, being able to experiment, be able to try UX and UI changes, find that data, collect that data, and make decisions using data. And beyond that, we also are able to help companies with B2C and B2B e-commerce and helping to orchestrate journeys by collecting data across their platforms and using that to market and engage clients and customers where they see fit, whether email, website, SMS, and other capabilities. So that's a very high level. And as much as I'll try to talk about Optimizely during this presentation, but just a little bit about our company. So as we all know, something has happened over the last few years that has really kicked digital over the edge and really accelerated many things. And the shift to digital first really has been talked about for many years, but obviously what happened over the last 2 years really accelerated it. And some of the stats actually were quite impressive within 2020, where 50% of all retail sales online in June 2020, it increased by 50% for retail sales online. A lot of companies that weren't ready for online actually were impacted. Companies went out of business because they weren't actually ready for e-commerce. We also saw an acceleration of digital transformation. In 2 months, we saw what had taken 2 years in the past, and over 22 billion in e-commerce spending in 2020, which was quite an increase over 2019. Here at Optimizely, we actually saw some of that data in regards to our own customers. What we actually saw engagement was up 70% on their websites, and conversions increased actually by 43% by driving, best of capabilities and content that's engaging customers using personalization, testing out, and delivering experiences that are relevant to those individuals. Our customers were able to see an increase from almost 1 billion site visitors to over 1.7 billion. And you can see the conversion increases across the different platforms. So we did mention that we were going to talk a little bit about content management and some of the benefits. So I'm going to just lay the foundation of what are those benefits of a CMS and a content management system. Many of you probably are using this today, or your company is using it to manage content. Although some companies are not, they're still using, coding systems and developers to deliver content across their platforms. But some of the keys is it's really one place to store your content and manage that content and be able to deploy that content to any channel. Start thinking about one center of truth, being able to have a single copy of content, be able to present that to social, be able to present that to your website, be able to reuse it across your platforms and even mobile devices. An easy place to edit and preview, being able to do bulk publishing. So think of being able to push out content all at once via, a large bulk campaign that you're doing that's related, and be able to set that date of publication for when that campaign goes live, and be able to separate the presentation from the content. What this enables a company to do is to be able to reuse that content across any platform. An example of a large deployment would be someone like the English Football League, which has over 70 club websites serving over 1 billion page views per year. What they're able to do is manage content locally for each club, but also be able to share content across those 70 clubs that in one location. So be able to manage it once, deploy it to 70 websites, and be able to have that central location of content. A key focus is with the content management system is really to remove that technical team from the need to day-to-day interaction or day-to-day management. Really what that will do is increase productivity, streamline the interfaces for the marketer to be able to create layouts, be able to create new pages for campaigns, and be able to manage that simply. It's definitely something that I've seen in the past where companies have had challenges where technical teams are involved, and I'll actually give you an example of this coming up shortly. It also enables teams to work together. As I talked about how we have our solution here at Optimizely that helps you to collaborate, really think about getting away from Word documents, being able to mitigate the need to email back and forth versions of content, being able to collaborate, respond, and engage in content so that speeds up the process of creation and deployment for that content that you're creating, or even a campaign or a website or anything like that. Be able to really create that workflow and approval process that meets your needs internally, and creating some security and governance around that content and deployment. And what it allows you to do is also reach the widest audiences with your messaging. So be able to, like I said, easily create the content, deploy that content, be able to manage it in multiple languages, and you can reach that content to whatever channel that you're looking for. In addition, with the content management system, it allows you to set up SEO best practices, allows you to set up accessibility so that your site is accessible and you can set guidelines. And as we talked about approval and security, you can make sure that the SEO accessibility or any other metadata or guidelines that you have internally are part of the process to make sure that you're meeting those before that content goes live. And by being able to manage also multilingual, you can start to think about one source of content integrated with a translation company to whatever language that you're looking for, and creating versions of your website very easily. So, here's an example with, 22 languages. This is Zealand with 80 different sites, 5 brands. So on Optimizely. So really start to think about how it can become complex, but with a CMS, it really helps to streamline that and simplify that capability. So that's a high level overview of CMS. Hopefully, if you have any questions, obviously we have the Q&A open. Feel free to chime in. But one of the things is that we talked about here is CMS. And what's interesting is that companies that even have a CMS, over 30% of them, and this is a survey that I did, a review of 163 sites, 30% of them haven't changed their site in over 2 years. So just think about this. For the last 2 years, the content has been static on their site. Their layouts have been static. on their home screen, and there has been no change. And I'm going to show you an example of this and what I mean by it. So here's an example of Blue Green's Vacations. Sorry to pick on somebody, but I had to pick a site that was very easily to notice that there has not been changed. So on the left, you have the current site from April 2022. And on the right, you have the site from April of 2020. The source of this is web.archive.org. So if you ever want to look at a site and see what it was look like years ago, you can use that as a great source to compare even your current site if you wanted to. And also recommend that it is a nonprofit website. So feel free to donate if you do use the site. But this is an example of how companies become stagnant. And the question is, why? Why do they become stagnant? What are the challenges that they have? And how can they actually move forward from this? So one of the key things is like changes are not simple. And this is the example that I actually mentioned before. This is a real life example working with a company that had come to us in regards to a need for a content management system. What they had was a coded website, and basically every time a small change would be needed, a developer would actually have to be involved. So think about if you want to just change a title on a website or on a page, you have to go to the developer. And think of this. They actually the marketer had to create the content or set up a means to let the developer know what content needs to be changed. The content sent to the developer. Developer has to add the content to the site. Then you have to have the marketer review the content changes and approve it. Then developer pushes to QA. The QA team has to review it. And then finally, the content is published. This process could take 2 to 3 weeks on average. So think about, taking 2 to 3 weeks to make a simple change, especially in a rapid evolving environment. So with a CMS, it makes it very easy. Marketer creates content, marketer submits for approval, they approve the content, and it's published to the site. It's like magic, right? It's like, hey, my mind, it is blown. Just here on my wonderful meme. I hope you guys like memes because there's a few more to come. So in addition, some of the other challenges might be technical debt. So what I mean by technical debt is that a system may have been, developed on. It might have had iterations of development. It may have the team creating code on top of a system that really should be simplified. And here's another actual data point, and this is a survey of 418 websites on a leading CMS. So I actually took the time to understand what version the platform's on, and 92% of them were at least 2 dot releases behind. And 30% of them were a full 2 versions behind. If you're not staying up on the latest capabilities and technology, you're not able to take advantage of the feature set and the capabilities of the platform. So if you're looking at a CMS, ask about the upgrade process. How easy is it? Is it breaking? And what means by breaking is that when you actually do the upgrade, does your developer have to go back and really change a lot of the context or layouts or platform integrations within that upgrade? So just think about if you have a non-breaking upgrade, your team can very easily upgrade the platform and deliver the new features and capabilities to your team. Whereas a non-breaking may take 3 to 6 months to upgrade. And what happens when your development team is spending 3 to 6 months on an upgrade? They're not able to advance your website and create the integrations or be able to create that next template or layout that you need to really engage your site visitors. I have no questions still, so hopefully everybody is intrigued or has enough coffee. So another point is lacking data. So how does a site stay still and content not created? What are companies doing? A lot of times they just don't understand what is engaging, where to create content. And this is actually an example of our content recommendation solution. And what I've circled here is kind of the Goldilocks line. And what this is showing is number of unique content items via topic versus the volume of engagement, or I should say the volume of engagement versus unique engagement on that content. And an example here on the right-hand side is of a topic on customer. And what you're seeing is that within this, it's showing you that the company has 84 pieces of content with this topic on it, and it's having 140 unique engagement points of site visitors. So people have either read the content, triggered engagement on that content, or a conversion within that content. So what this is showing you is that this content is very engaging, driving a lot of traffic, and is getting the conversions. So think about, if you knew this data, your team can focus on this content and create more content regarding this. Whereas if you have one on the left here, what this is showing you is that you have 62 pieces of content on this topic brand, but only one unique visit. So as a marketer, this data, what's going to tell you is that either A, you have someone on your team that's really great with a topic around brand and is just pushing out tons of content, and they just keep on pumping it out, and that's what their time is spent on. Whereas their time can really be pushed over to another topic that's relevant. Or another option might be that this content is buried. You don't have links to it. You're not publishing it in the right areas of social or anything like that. So taking this content, giving the empowerment to the marketer to figure out what content to create next. Then also there might be no personalization. And I just use Coastal Credit Union. I know that they're local. They're actually my credit union. And if you're looking for a credit union, I definitely recommend it. Great to work with. But with personalization, really what you want to do is be able to learn what that individual might be interested in. And again, I am using one of our solutions here that's called our content recommendations. And what this is able to do, let's see here. Let's see if I had a question here. A lot of CMS providers are now going to market as digital experience platforms. What's the difference between the two, and what's driving the change? So when you start to think about digital experience platforms, it's really about the overall engagement across all the channels, and how you're delivering the experience. Could be actually, mobile. It could be web. It could actually be an intranet. So you start to think about, and even text or CMS. So you start to think about how your overall platform engages that individual across all your sites. So really what DXP stands for is your MarTech stack, and how your MarTech stack comes together, how it can deliver that engagement. And it's also just a great marketing word. So I'm not sure if that helps to understand it. Whereas the CMS itself is just managing the content and helping you publish that to the channels. So it's a part of the overall solution. So, I mean, we use DXP all the time. We do think that we have brought together, the best of breed of many different capabilities to create that full digital experience. So if you think about DXP, it's overall of all the different MarTech that you're bringing together. So that's my kind of overview of what a DXP is. I'm sure that there's many other people that provide that. So hopefully that helps to answer your question. If not, feel free to send a follow-up. But thank you for that question. So, but getting back to the personalization, being able to actually learn what the visitor wants and use that data to engage. So in this example, I've kind of gone to mortgages and home equity, clicked on a little bit of the content around Coastal Credit Union. And what you'll see here on the right is a profile of that individual, telling me, that word cloud, what they might be interested in. Obviously, the site visitor wouldn't see this. But it's allowing you to kind of see, okay, since I've touched all this content, here's what they might be interested in. What if you follow up on that and actually know this, think about how this site actually makes a little personalized here, where it says up to 100% convenience and rate discounts as the call to action. But imagine bringing this forward the next time they come to their site and come to the homepage. You can actually bring forward some of that content. So you can see here, I put the up to 100%. The convenience of consolidating debt, and some of the rate discounts that you might have with your first mortgage. So now you're engaging that person with content that's relevant to what they might have looked at either in session or the next time they come to the site based off of cookies. Being able to personalize the site, higher engagement, and driving better, obviously, CTAs. So what does personalization experimentation might provide? So just here's an example of just some data for a use case where, with Misguided, they were actually able to see a 33% increase in relative increase in revenue through experimentation and personalization. What would a 33% increase mean to your company? They also saw a 300% lift in click-through rates for featured products. Being able to personalize that content, personalize those products to those individuals really drove a much higher engagement. And also they saw 177% lift in conversion rate with next day delivery. What they were able to do is test and experiment whether next day delivery was something that their customers were looking for and whether it drove higher conversion rates. So being able to use that personalization is really going to help you to obviously engage and provide a better experience for your customers. Another thing that kind of stops change is the Hippo. Have we all heard about the Hippo? Hippo is the highest paid person's opinion. So a lot of times what happens when there's a Hippo in the room is that nothing changes without them approving. So if they don't believe in it, it's not their idea. If they don't think that it's actually going to have an impact, not using data, but just they might have been like, oh, well, we tried that 3 years ago. Or, they might have been like, hey, our competition is trying this, so we should do it. It doesn't get approved. They also feel that if it isn't broke, then why fix it? And this leads to eliminating to limited or no changes to the website. And what happens with the Hippo effect is teams are unwilling to try new ideas. Without data, the Hippo always decides. So start going back and starting to figure out, hey, what data points do we need and how can we collect data? And experimentation is a great way to do that. So a lot of times, I love Tom Fishburne. He's great, but this is just an example. What if it cannibalizes our existing range of obsolete products that nobody wants any longer? So it really, this is the epitome of a Hippo where they don't want to try the new idea because they think that everything's just working fine, even though it's really not. And what is experimentation? Experimentation tests variations of digital experiences and recommendations with real users, employs what wins based off of data. So think about what I'm saying is if the way that you can get past a Hippo is using data and collecting that data and experimenting on your website easily using an experimentation platform, really empowering the marketer to test A and B without a developer. And in this example, we have the shoes versus the person. You can see that one actually drove a negative impact versus a positive impact. Now, going back with that data, it's not a conversation of what I think might work. It's actually a conversation of what did work. And here's some examples of just what the anatomy experience might be for your website and what you could test and what you should be testing on your website to see what improves. So you start to think about little iterations might be just, the content. So if you see here, the content, it says, "Hi, Wes." You can either put in, obviously, a little bit of a personalization, or you might be able to put some other content in there. You can do the product recommendations. Amazon does this very well, where they can recommend products, or I'm not sure if Netflix really does it well. Sometimes they do. Being able to also test high value assets like your carousel, being able to personalize the hero, being able to actually test the layout of the site, where the cart goes, where a call to action might be. Doing a little deeper dive into experimentation, might also be the search and navigation or algorithms that you have on your site. So start to think about where can I test and what that test might mean in an improvement in the UX and UI for your customers. And here's just an example of the challenges that some companies have when they're using certain platforms. I am bringing Optimizely into this because I do notice there are other platforms that also help to do quick experimentation. But this is an example of a solution that really needs everything in the CMS in order to experiment. So think about if it's not there, then your developers have to design, first your UX and UI people have to design it, then they have to develop it. And we all know development cycles can take quite a while. So 2 weeks is a normal sprint for most companies. And then deploy it, then configure it, and finally you get to the testing. So it's a minimum of 4 weeks, possibly even more. And then with Optimizely, with our experimentation solution, it's a client-side web-facing solution where a marketer or even a product person can very easily take a design, deploy it, configure it, and test it very quickly. And on an average, with most solutions that are doing client-side web experimentation, can take 1 to 2 weeks. So within 1 to 2 weeks, you'll actually know whether you have an experimentation that works well or not, and be able to deploy that quickly. And here's the area where actually it takes a lot longer and the resources can become overtaxed. So when you have development and you have to deploy it, that really can actually create an issue for even testing anything or even deploying the new changes to the website. In addition, companies that actually don't even have a testing platform and use a development and deploy solution, just think about 70% of experimentations usually fail. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually knowing what is working and what's not working. So imagine if your developers were spending time to develop and deploy something that has a 70% chance of failing. What does that impact to all your other things that you want to improve on your website? Or how would that improve your development cycles if you eliminate that 70% that doesn't need to be developed and deployed to your website? Now you can start to talk about really improving and moving your digital experience forward much quicker with the integrations that you've been trying to work on. The improvements actually work for your website. Still no questions. And here's an example of what experimentation can do for you. You have the Wall Street Journal here. They're able to actually do experimentation and improve subscription acquisition by 51%. HP was able to see a $21 million lift in incremental revenue. Uber on their driver acquisition saw almost 20% increase. And finally, the last one, seeing a 28% increase in cross-sell performance. All these companies are doing experimentation. They're doing iterations that are either small or large. And it doesn't have to be just large companies like this. Obviously, your company might be thinking of ideas, not knowing whether they work or not, and deploying them. So as a smaller company, experimentation should be part of your toolbox. And finally, I'm just going to actually give a real life example and a use case. So here's a question. Do I need to change my existing marketing technologies to adopt experimentation? The answer actually for us and some other solutions is no. So optimize the example. I'm going to talk to that just because obviously that's what I'm aware of. We can overlay on any platform out there and any content management system, or even possibly a code developed site to help companies to experiment. So it's not needed to actually change your full MarTech stack. Obviously, I would love you to if you were looking at a full solution, but it definitely can be implemented on any solution. Great question. Thank you. So here's an example of Eddie Bauer. So Eddie Bauer has a program for membership. You can see here it's green, bronze, silver, or gold. And they were challenged at really trying to educate people and figure out how people can get to that next level and increase revenue by getting their members to a higher level, knowing that if they're close to bronze, then they can alert those customers. They can actually tell them, hey, if you just spend a little bit more, you're going to get free shipping. What they're able to do as starting off is really starting to target visits who recently purchased and are not members. So what they're able to do is segment those individuals, create a test that actually tries to push them to become a member, and experimenting on different segments and providing incentives for that sign up. So in this case, obviously, if they sign up, they get an extra 10% off on their purchase, knowing that they're already a customer. And what you're able to do, many times companies are challenged with, that technical effort to do something simple like that. So like the question said, do they have to change their MarTech stack, or could they do it on their website? So, they're able to actually here provide, the challenges where the technical effort, customer needs to design a way to push and expose loyalty tier information, the reachability, the web experimentation audiences can be limited. The data freshness was a challenge, and oftentimes limited to website interactions. So we're able to create the visitor behaviors, segment those individuals, and target those individuals to a certain level. And now here you can actually use a data platform, or, for us, it's a Optimizely data platform. For some other companies, it might be a CDP. But use that profile information to enrich what they know about those individuals and be able to target them with that next level. So here's an example. You're at the green level, and what your benefits are included in this. So you can unlock free shipping by spending $50 more this year. So there's the incentive saying, hey, if I get free shipping, I know shipping's usually $20. If I spend $50, I'm going to get it for free and free for my future orders. So maybe it makes sense to actually do that. And here's where they can actually use that information to segment. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Optimizely data platform. You can also integrate Experimentation Solutions with other customer data platforms, or other, maybe you have a SQL database or something like that to pull the information into the systems. And then from here, you can actually start to increase customer loyalty by creating recommendations. Hey, here they're actually saying, hey, spend more and unlock 5% back and free shipping for 1 year. So now they're not only recommending products based off of what they know about the individual, but they're also putting in content that is related to that individual based off of what they know and what level they're at. And then finally, using our full stack server side, they're actually starting to be able to expand their experimentation to, possibly push notifications, online chat, their mobile application, and even assisting with their customer support teams. So with that, obviously, that's my presentation. Hopefully you've seen some value. I do have some additional questions coming in here. What's a typical length of time required to start using personalization? Is it difficult to learn? So I don't know if there's a typical timeline with our solution and our customers. Usually it would take 2 to 3 weeks to set the platform up, sometimes 4 weeks, depending on the technical steps that are needed. And from there, they can actually start to very easily personalize the experience. If you're actually using the product or content recommendations on the website, that again is about a 2 to 4 week deployment. And at that point, personalization, which is a one-to-one interaction, can be done without really any additional need of trying to learn or understand. It's really more about where do you put it on your website. So some companies go through a long process of understanding the personas and profiles. With experimentation, what you can actually use is the data to be able to experiment with that and drive personalization and learn as you go. You can also use solutions that are customer data platforms, and start to orchestrate journeys where they actually use some ML and AI to actually deliver that personalization based off of prior engagement data that you have with your clients, and be able to put that forward. Hopefully that helps to answer, but you can start very quickly, as little as 2 to 4 weeks. And from there, it actually is a process of experimentation and learning as you go and accelerating. There are many agencies or even that are out there that we work with that can help companies to accelerate that even faster. Great question. Thank you. Come on, more questions. Happy to answer any. I also will put in the chat my LinkedIn profile, if I can get to it here. Too many windows open, of course, but happy to connect with anybody. I'm also obviously part of NC Tech, so happy to engage across those areas too. But here's my profile. Happy to connect with anybody that's joined, and I appreciate you taking the time today to actually out of your day to speak with me and hear what I have to say. I'll stick around a few more minutes if anybody thinks of any questions, but I'll hand it back and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. And I'll be sending a follow-up to everyone who was registered today with a recording in case there's some things you missed and want to go back and review. And I will also copy in our presenters, our sponsor presenters from today as well, so you can follow up with any questions you might think of down the road. I'm sure there are tons and tons of questions that could be asked and had on this. So thank you so much to Optimizely and Michael for presenting. And this is just one of our many things that we do with at NC Tech, so keep an eye on our events calendar. We'd love to see you all, whether virtually again or in person soon. I hope you have a great rest of your day and take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Emily.